Everybody, welcome back to the webinar series on Pirkei Avos, the ethics of our fathers. Once again, feel free to comment and ask questions anytime throughout the shir. So we are holding Mishna Dalet, the fourth Mishna in Pirkei Avos. And again, we will first read the Mishna inside, explain it according to the simple meaning, and then again go through it perhaps in a deeper way. Till now in Pirkei Avos, we have been going according to the tradition of how Torah was passed on, starting from Moshe Rabbeinu from Hashem, to Yeshua, to the Zkenim, to the Nevi'im, etc., etc. And from Mishnah Dalet and onwards, it explains a new way how Torah was passed on. That till now, it was passed on from person to person, from one leader of the generation to the next leader of the generation. Generally, there was one leader for the entire Jewish people. However, from now on, there was a system called zugos, which means pairs, which means that there were actually two leaders. One was considered the Nasi, he was considered the leader of the Jewish people, and then there was the Av Bezdin, the head of the Bezdin, he was like the second in command. And as you'll see, as each Mishnah goes on, it will mention two people who received the Torah from the previous two people, and the order which it mentions them, so the first one is the Nasi, and the second one is the Av Bezdin. So Mishnah Dalet, inside. Yosi ben Ye'ezer ish Tzreida, v'Yosi ben Yochanan ish Yerushalayim kiblu mehem. Yosi, the son of Ye'ezer, who was from the city of Tzreida, and Yosi, the son of Yochanan, who was from Yerushalayim, they both received the Torah from Shimon HaTzadik and Antigonus ish Soichai, from the previous people which we mentioned before. Yosi ben Ye'ezer ish Tzreida omer. So we mentioned a saying from the first one, from Yosi, the son of Ye'ezer, who was from Tzreida. He says as follows. He used to say, Yehi beischa beisvad lechachamim. Your house should be a gathering place for sages. Meaning, just like a shul and a beis medrash is a place where sages gather to learn, so too a person should make their house a place where Talmidei Chachamim gather, where Torah sages, where Torah scholars gather, and they learn Torah there. The reason for this is, as the Rav explains, the Bartanura explains, that it is impossible that it shouldn't affect you. Even if you have Talmidei Chachamim, Torah scholars hanging around your house, even if you don't necessarily learn anything specific from them, but you'll definitely be affected. And the example that's brought is that if somebody walks into a store which sells spices, even if they don't end up buying anything, but when they walk out of the store, they'll be smelling nice like the spices which are in the store. So too, if a person makes his house a place, a beis vad l'talmidei chachamim, a place where talmidei chachamim gather, it's impossible that he should not be affected. Automatically, the whole atmosphere of the home will be transformed from the Torah learning of the Torah scholars. Another great advantage which comes out from this is that having Talmidei Chachamim in one's home brings down tremendous bracha in the home. We find by Oved was the person that before the temple was built, before the Beis Hamikdash was built, the Aron, the Holy Ark, was stored in his tent, in his house. And it says in the Pasuk, the verses explain the tremendous brachas, the tremendous blessings which came into Oved's house as a result of this. And the commentaries point out that if the Aron, the Holy Ark, which only had in it the 10 Commandments, brought such blessings into Oved's home, how much more so somebody who has Torah scholars in their home, which in their mind is the entire Torah or a lot of Torah, how much more so will bring down tremendous blessings in one's home. And we find a similar concept by Yosef HaTzadik and in Potiphar's house when Yosef was sold into slavery into Egypt and he spent time in Potiphar's house. The verse goes on to explain the tremendous blessings that were brought as a result of Yosef being in Potiphar's house. Then the Mishnah continues. The second thing he says, which literally means you should become dusty in the dirt of their feet. So there's different explanations of this, just briefly two of them, that there's an idea to constantly follow around Talmidei Chacham, to learn from their ways. Just like when somebody walks up, he kicks dirt from underneath his feet and it goes backwards. So too, the Mishnah is saying that the Torah scholars, on their journey upwards in Avodas Hashem, in service to God, we are supposed to be following from behind and learning and trying to emulate their ways and their ways of serving Hashem. Another explanation in this is that it says that when a Torah scholar gives a shiur, gives a class, you shouldn't be sitting on the same level as them. Rather, they should be sitting on something higher, and you should be sitting down on something lower, meaning by their feet. Which this doesn't necessarily mean literally, but it means you're trying to bring out the subservience, the type of subservience they're supposed to have to Torah scholars, to, so to speak, give yourself over to them and to learn from their ways. And the third thing he says is the last line of the Mishnah: "Vavashoyse batzoma es divreim." Drink with thirst their words. And what it's trying to say is that even if you hear a shiur every single day from a particular Torah scholar, and it's beginning to become like you're already used to it, nevertheless, every time you hear another shiur in Torah, another Torah thought, you should drink it like someone thirsty is drinking water. Now, this Mishnah comes as a continuation from the Mishnah before. We finished off the Mishnah before saying, V'hi moira shamayim alecha, that a person has to have fear of heaven upon them. In this Mishnah we learn one of the ways that a person can get yira shamayim, can acquire fear of heaven, and that is to follow around and to hang around and to be around Torah scholars, great tzaddikim, righteous people and Torah scholars. Because when you see somebody else who has yira shamayim, you see somebody else who has fear of heaven, automatically that rubs off on you and that affects you. Now let's go through the three things again and perhaps see other deeper explanations and other explanations from different commentaries on these things. So the first thing we said was that your house should be open for Torah scholars. So of course, besides for the literal meaning of that Torah scholars should be hanging around your house, but there's another meaning to this, that the house is actually referring to a person's mind. That a person's mind should be filled from the words of the sages, which means even if a person is gifted and smart enough to learn on their own, that they have the ability to learn on their own through their own intellectual ability, nevertheless, a person has to constantly learn from people which are higher than them, from chachamim, from sages, people that know more than him. You always need to be on the receiving end. It's not enough just to learn on your own, but it's very important to always be receiving from Torah authorities, from Torah scholars which know more than you. Another pshat that's brought down, another meaning is that chachamim, sages over here, actually means svarim, it means holy books. One of the ways of bringing sages into your home is filling up your home with Torah books. There is a great merit to somebody which surrounds their home with holy books, and that itself brings a tremendous atmosphere of holiness within the home. The Sfas Emes explains something unbelievable. He explains that what it means to say that that your house should be a gathering place for Talmidei Chachamim means that when a person learns Torah, and you learn, let's say, Gemara, and you mention the names of different sages, one should actually consider it as if those sages have filled your house. They have now entered your home. You are actually learning with them around you. As it says, when a person learns something, it should be ki'ilu bal hashmua oimet kenegdoi, as if the one who said this Torah is standing opposite him. So he says that it doesn't necessarily mean literally Torah scholars in their body, but it also means that when you learn Torah, you should know that when you learn Torah of our great sages of old, they are actually now in your home, present with you, learning the Torah with you. One of the reasons for this idea that a person should have Torah scholars in their home is not only that you should learn Torah from them, because Torah you can go and learn, go to shul or go to the Beis Medrash, the house of study, and learn from them there. One of the reasons why you should have Talmidei Chachamim hanging around your house, so to speak, is because you learn from them in general. There's an idea that Godul Shimusha Yoser Milimuta, which means that in a way it is greater to serve a Torah scholar, to serve them even with their physical needs, just to be around them, even more than learning Torah from them, in a way. Why? Because when you learn Torah from them, you're learning something very specific. But when you hang around them in general, you learn how they live their life. You learn how to live a refined, moral life based upon Yirah Shamayim, based upon fear of heaven. The next statement in the Mishnah, we said, was that you should get dusty with the earth from their feet. And there are also different interesting explanations on this. So, misavik, besides the meaning become dusty, become dirty, it also means to fight a war. And that the Pirkei Avos explains that what's actually saying over here is that when you learn Torah from Chachamim, from sages, from teachers, You're, so to speak, actually supposed to fight with them. Meaning, obviously not in a negative sense, but meaning that if you don't understand something, you're supposed to challenge, you're supposed to ask, you're supposed to try and understand and make sure that you truly understand what they're saying. However, says the Mishnah, have a misabik. You can ask questions, you can challenge, but it has to be ba'afar ragleim. It has to be at the dust of their feet. Meaning, that has to be done with humility and with a sense that, of course, they know better than me, and I'm just trying to understand what they're saying. So, of course, there has to be the idea of misabik, to challenge, to fight, so to speak, to try and understand what they're saying. But it has to be ba'afar ragleim. It has to be done with a tremendous sense of humility and subservience, that you're not challenging them in order to win over them, God forbid, but on the contrary, you're trying to understand what they are saying. The Sfas Emes says that misabik can also be related to the pasuk where it says about Yaakov Avinu, Jacob our forefather, who fought together with the angel. It says Vayi'ovek ish imoy, that the man fought with him. And Rashi on that pasuk, the commentary on the verse says that Vayi'ovek comes from can also mean hiskashrus, meaning connection. That the idea of here isn't only that you should learn from the Talmidei Chachamim. The idea is that you need to become connected to them through and through. That relates to the whole idea of emunas chachamim, of emunas tzaddikim, believing in righteous people, believing that they have a godly power, etc., etc., of connecting yourself to that higher reality, to Talmidei Chachamim. An interesting idea over here in the words that the Mishnah chooses to use is that it says that you should become dusty in the earth of their feet. Seemingly, it would have made more sense to say, misabek, you should become dusty in the dust of their feet. Why does it change the word? It should have said misabek ba'avak ragleim. The Hebrew word for dust is avak. Why does it change it to say afar, to mean their dirt? And the reason is because the difference between dirt and dust is that dirt can actually be used for something good. Afar refers to the earth of the ground, which from it grows plant life and can come from a tremendous growth. Dust is useless. Dust we want to get rid of. Dust is annoying. It has absolutely no purpose whatsoever. And what the Mishnah is trying to tell us is like this, that when you learn from a Talmud Chacham, when you learn from a Torah sage, and you don't understand what they're saying, and it seems to you that it's just dust, that makes absolutely no sense, it's nonsense, it doesn't really make sense to you, you need to know that really it's afar, really it's dirt, really you just didn't understand the depth of it. If you would just go a little bit deeper and try to understand the depth behind of what this Torah sage is saying, and you would realize the tremendous growth and the tremendous depth that can come out of this person's teaching. And of course, moving on to the last one, to drink Torah. Why is the learning of Torah compared to drinking and not to eating? So the Tiferet Tzvi says an interesting idea, that when a person goes into someone else's house, generally speaking, one is not uncomfortable to ask for a drink, because it's a very easy thing to do. But if you walk into someone's house, it's much more uncomfortable to go ask them for a full meal to eat. So what it's trying to say is that when a person meets a Torah scholar, one should be like a drink. It shouldn't be like a meal. It should be something that you should never feel embarrassed to ask and to want to learn and to want to grow in your Torah learning. And just to finish off, the Mishnah uses the words es divreihem, their words. It doesn't say to drink their Torah words, their words of Torah with thirst. It says drink in their words. As it is said that afilu sichas chulin shel talmidei chachamim tzrichin limud, which means even just, so to speak, the idle chatter of a Torah scholar needs to be learned from, which means that a Torah scholar is somebody that is so taken through and through of Torah that everything that comes out of his mouth, even if it's seemingly unrelated to Torah, one can learn tremendous lessons from it. So just to summarize the general lesson from today's Mishnah, the importance of connecting to Torah scholars and the importance of connecting to people which their entire life is Torah, that they're through and through in Torah, the importance of bringing that in your home, whether it's through actual physical Torah scholars and people in person, or bringing in holy books, or realizing that when you learn, the Torah scholars themselves are present in one's home, to constantly drink from their words, to constantly want to grow in one's Torah learning, and all the blessings that brings in one's home. Have a great day.